Oh, right. We're back from my usual piss break. Jacob, it's at least once an episode, right?
Yeah.
We also did, because I'm an idiot and I didn't think of it beforehand, we hooked Jacob up with the mic, and we also had to because Jacob is actually caught up on what we were talking about before the break on the Marvel Universe on TV, Disney Plus. So
We're going to turn off Dave's mic because
I should probably sit over there and let Jacob sit over here.
what he has to say has no bearing because he's not caught up.
But I have a decent knowledge of comic books. First of all, I do want to point out to people real quick that if you are really into the shows and the movies, and you think maybe I would want to read comics, but I don't want to go try to buy them or anything like that, you can get. Go ahead, BJ. Tell me.
Dude, Marvel Unlimited. It's freaking amazing. It's an app for your phone, your tablet, whatever. It's like, I think it's like, what was it, 14 a month or something like that?
Just 10.
Maybe even 10.
Yeah, I think it's
It's
10.
not expensive. It's like the Netflix of Marvel Comics. It's amazing. Obviously, they don't have every single title that they've ever released, but damn near close. The layout of it is great. You can... for the longest time, I just went, like, they even have them sorted by comic events. So I was just kind of jumping around from event to event. And then you could even just go by, month and year. So that's kind of how I go by now. Like, I know what titles I want to read. So I'll just go like right now I'm in December of 2017.
Yeah.
And then whenever I finish everything in December of 2017 that I like, I'm going to go to January of 2018.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I like about it, too, is you can read it two ways. You can either read it as a page, or you can read it as tiles. So you can decide which one you want to do.
Right, and so that's what's really nice. So, like, even, like, I read it on my phone. Like, you would think that you wouldn't be able to read comics on your phone. Like, the page, it's not just full page. They have what they call Smart Panel. So instead of it just being the full page on your screen, they zoom in panel to panel,
right?
So you can actually see what you're doing. Like I said, I read it on my cell phone at night every night.
Yeah, I feel like maybe if I had my iPad still, but I lost it, I would probably read it more. Right now, I don't have time to read. Period. But.
Right, and honestly, like I don't really have a whole lot of time to read. That, like, instead of reading a book before bed, like that's what I do. I read 2 or 3 comics before I fall asleep in bed at night.
And actually, that's kind of nice because 2 or 3 comics. I mean, how many pages?
Usually, anywhere from 22 to 36, something like that, depending on the issue.
And way less words.
Right.
So it goes quick.
But yeah, so going back to WandaVision, there are some similarities definitely to House of M. Obviously, some big differences in the House of M comics. It's she has these 2 kids, and it's the same kids that are in the show, Wiccan and I forget what the hell the speedster's name is. Whatever. The 2 kids, one of them's fast, one of them does magic.
Yeah.
And she loses her 2 kids, and she has this psychotic break, and she ends up, she has these, like, her chaos magic is like reality warping, and so she warps the entire planet's reality and remakes the world to where mutants are the head of everything, and humans are the lesser beings
strength,
at that
lesser
point.
Strength.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to point out is what a lot of people don't realize yet, or if they've watched the show, they're probably starting to realize it, is that in the Marvel Universe, Scarlet Witch is actually one of the most powerful people.
Yeah, and I mean, they're definitely building towards that, especially as the further you go in the show. They actually mention her chaos magic and that she's actually had it since she was born. They rewrote or revamped the whole original story from the movies where she was experimented on.
Right.
They realized that no, she's had this forever, and it is what they call chaos magic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then at the end of House of M, they finally get to her and try to make her undo it and make the world back to where it was. But what she says actually is no more mutants, and so then when things come back, there's only 190. So before House of M, there was millions of mutants worldwide.
Yeah.
After House of M, and she says no more mutants, she depowers all but 198 mutants.
First of all, crazy that she has that ability. That's how powerful she is.
Right. She is a reality warping mutant.
Yeah. But what is there any relevance or any significance to the 198?
I don't think the specific number. No, not that I've read.
Did she pick and choose what mutants?
No, it seemed to be pretty random.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was wild. So the thing that pisses me off, I was so happy when Quicksilver came into play. The actual X-Men Quicksilver from the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
Came into play. And then you said you don't care about, because everybody else has already seen it. It's been long enough.
Here's where So spoiler alert in 3, 2, 1, boom.
The end of the show, they go on to say that he's not actually Quicksilver. That's not actually her brother. That is just some random dude. What was his name? David Boner?
Yeah.
Something Boner. And he was just a random guy in the town that she warped his mind and made him play the part of her brother.
That sucks. I understand why they did it, because they killed her brother in the movies, but let's go ahead and just redo it. You guys just bought the X-Men series, so now we can redo X-Men.
Honestly, I thought it was going to be a perfect bridge between, because supposedly she's going to play in real big with the next Doctor Strange movie, the something multiverse. What the hell's the next one called?
It's something multiverse.
Something of the multiverse, whatever. So supposedly they're definitely supposed to be bringing in the multiverse, which has been a big aspect of Marvel Comics for a long time, where there's these different versions of people in these different universes. So I really thought that he was going to be the Quicksilver just from a different
multiverse.
Universe. Yeah. Like 616 is the normal,
as we know
Marvel Universe is the mainstream one. I thought, and that's what I thought how they were going to be able to bring in the other X-Men, was she was going to somehow merge or bring in mutants from another multiverse, from another universe, and that would have been a perfect way to bridge the gap to start bringing the X-Men in.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because we got to bring the X-Men in, because first of all, the only truly good X-Men movie to me is Logan.
Yeah, I mean, I still think a lot of them had their merit. So many of especially the original three. Now, X-Men 3, there's almost zero good to be said about it. Just because
is that the Phoenix storyline?
One, you can't even really call it the Phoenix storyline, because they just continuously fuck up the Phoenix storyline. It's one of the most iconic X-Men storylines.
Yes.
And they continuously screwed up. They almost did a good job in the new Phoenix. Literally all they had to do was, instead of bringing in this random weird alien race that no one had ever heard of and they just basically made up.
Yeah.
Insert the Shi'ar.
Yeah.
The Shi'ar are literally, that was them in the comics. They were the Shi'ar.
But what's crazy is they might not have had the rights to it.
I don't understand why they wouldn't. Shi'ar are strictly X-Men.
Because they're not in any other. They're not in the Avengers. They're not in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Only in X-Men crossover stuff. I mean, later, way later, there's like what's the something like War of Kings and stuff. But even that's still X-Men centric.
Yeah. But you never know how it worked out. The Avengers side, the Disney side, may have bought those rights.
True, it may be, but I don't see why because there's no other huge storylines that the Shi'ar are in that the X-Men aren't.
Just because they might have wanted to use them for Guardians of the Galaxy in some aspect or form.
But even then, why haven't they? Like, they're one of the major superpowers of the galaxy, or of the universe of Marvel 616. If they were going to bring them in, why wouldn't they have wanted to bring them in? So, like, they've brought in all these other characters and other species. Why wouldn't they have wanted to bring them in? Like, they were a huge... But they're considered a superpower.
But that's
the
when...
the Kree, the
right.
Shi'ar,
But Disney and Fox owned separate portions of it,
Yeah.
of Marvel. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So Disney may have, because Fox was doing X-Men. Disney was doing everything else. Disney may have owned the rights to that alien character.
Maybe. I just, like I said, because they are so X-Men centric, I just don't see how they wouldn't have went along with the X-Men. But you could be right. I don't know.
It could have been a power play by Disney. Like, we want X-Men eventually. And they're like, hey, we have a big portion of your storylines, so you might as well sell it to us.
But yeah, like I said, because they finally got the how she got the Phoenix Force part correct, where she was on a mission in space, and the Phoenix Force was an outside celestial entity that possessed her, and not just she was really powerful since birth, and we
yeah.
I mean, yes, Jean Grey is a
Super
omega level
powerful.
mutant,
Yes.
but yeah, no, the Phoenix Force is in itself a celestial force. I mean, it's an entity in its own. It is not that she was just born with these weird Phoenix powers.
I have to say, in general, though, I'm very excited that Disney has X-Men.
Dude,
But I'm upset because, what's his name? Hugh Jackman said he's not going to play Wolverine anymore.
a long time ago, I had heard. Now, this was before the whole Disney X-Men deal got done. That he didn't want to play Wolverine unless he could play alongside the Avengers.
Oh.
But that, like I said, that was a long time ago. I
Yeah,
think that was
yeah.
even before Logan came out.
I think he would continue to do Logan's.
I don't know how you would do another Logan movie just because of unless it was like a prequel kind of thing, just because they did like the end of Logan.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean,
But they didn't even really do the true death of Wolverine either. I mean, there is a death of hell.
well,
like,
and they didn't truly do Old Man Logan either,
Right.
because he was
even that didn't even take place in the 616.
Yeah, well, and he was fighting the Hulks,
Right. Yeah, that was a post-apocalyptic future
where the Hulk's kids were dominating everything.
yeah, all the bad guys had taken over.
Jacob is like, "What is happening right
Dude,
now?"
Old Man Logan.
I need to read these.
He's like, "You gave me a microphone, and I have no idea what's happening."
For real. Even what's really nice about Old Man Logan too is you don't really need to know any backstory.
None. None.
Anybody that lives in this world knows Wolverine is part of the X-Men. He's a good guy, and the Hulk is the Hulk.
Yeah.
That's really all you need to know. They
Yeah.
explain everything else, and it's like, what is it, 10 or 12 books maybe?
I don't know.
Something
I
like
read
that.
it all in one book.
Yeah, it's not real long, but it is phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, one thing I got upset about in the comic world was, even though I absolutely love the movie Thor Ragnarok, Jacob, you've obviously seen it.
Oh man,
Absolutely
yeah.
love it. One of me and PJ's favorite comic book storylines that I've actually full on read this is Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. And so the portion, Jacob, where they're at
On Sakaar.
on Sakaar and the Gladiator type stuff, that is actually all part of a massive storyline that is, to me, one of the best Marvel storylines of all time, called Planet Hulk. And they just made it like a snippet of
Like
Thor
a
Ragnarok.
cameo of Thor's shit. Like
Yeah, and
Thor was never even involved in it.
no, and it's so epic. He wasn't even involved in World War Hulk.
I don't think so. No, well, maybe because in World War Hulk is when he comes back from
When he comes
Sakaar,
back, yeah.
and he's like, so in the actual Planet Hulk, he gets banished by
The Illuminati.
The Illuminati,
Who
which
is
Professor Xavier, Iron Man,
Doctor Strange,
Doctor Strange, Namor,
Namor, however you want to say it.
and then T'Challa was supposed to be, but I think he decided that he didn't want any part of it, and he walked out before they made the decision.
Yeah, and even Namor didn't like the fact that it was happening, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember, but he stayed a part of the Illuminati.
Yes. But so they banished him because they were like, if he loses his cool, he's just too dangerous. So
Well, because multiple times throughout the Hulk's reign, he is went crazy, destroyed cities, killed lots of innocents, and it was right after he had actually, I think he destroyed
Vegas.
part of Vegas.
Yeah.
And so they were like, all right, listen, this just keeps happening. It's for the greater good. We have to just banish him. And so they tried to just like, they sent him through this wormhole.
And they were trying to send him to an inhabited planet. Uninhabited planet where there were no beings. But something happened.
I think he freaked out when he was on the ship and somehow like broke something and knocked it off course.
Yeah. So he ended up on the planet that you see in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And pretty much the rest of it's kind of okay for that aspect.
Yeah, he becomes like this badass gladiator and ends up being like the ruler of the planet. Like
he falls in love with a girl,
and on that planet they have like a lore of a messiah coming. That's going to be like the what do they call him? Like the breaker of worlds or something like that.
Yeah, breaker of chains maybe.
Something like that. And then and he ends up like fulfilling that prophecy, and he frees the planet, and then he's like, you know what? It's time to go back to Earth and fuck shit up.
Yeah. But it's so weird because he is definitely still the hero of both stories. Because even though he goes back to Earth and he starts fucking shit up, he still ends up being the hero of the story. Which I had a big argument with Kyle, my friend Kyle Hoshar, who does MMA Fools with me. He was like, "No, he's the villain in that." I'm like, "No, you don't. He's still the hero in it. He still ends up actually saving Earth."
Right.
And Meek, the little cockroach-looking guy from the movies, he's a massive role in it.
Yeah. Him and Korg.
Yeah, but in
and neither one of them were comedic relief in the actual comic.
No, Meek maybe a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
But when they go to World War Hulk and they go back to the States, like Meek ends up like reproducing and controlling minds and
because he ends up like they thought he was killed, and then he ends up almost like cocooning, and then when he comes out, he becomes like this huge, enormous like Godzilla like beetle where he's like a couple stories tall.
Yeah, well, and like his minions and stuff. I can't. I have to read it again.
Well, because they're like that race in that is like a hive mind, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Hive mind. That's what it was. The hive. Yeah, but so then, but for some reason, Kyle couldn't understand is he's first of all, Hulk goes back there to try to seek revenge on the people that banished him.
Right.
And he blames them for the death of his love because the ship that they sent him on exploded and blew everything up.
Yeah.
And so then he goes back and tries to seek revenge, which still makes him, I mean, if you're looking at, say, Liam Neeson in Taken, makes him the good guy. He's going out and trying to avenge. And then even through that, when he ends up being like realizing I can destroy all of this, he ends up having to stop something from happening that will actually destroy the planet.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was, but you are right though.
Yeah, he's the hero in the whole thing.
He actually he has a son in that too. With that girl that he falls in love with, he has a son, and now his son is part of the Marvel Universe. I think his name is like Scar. Or, I don't know.
I think Scar is actually right. Yeah. But it's so crazy to me that such an epic storyline, which I watched the cartoon version of the storyline, which does not match up with the comics.
Better than the movie, obviously.
Right.
But it wasn't terrible.
It wasn't terrible.
I wish they would do more of those cartoon straight comic storylines, because that's something where you don't have to worry about the actors aging out. Like, honestly, like I wish they would pretty much like revamp the old X-Men cartoon and just straight go issue to issue.
Well, that's my only thing with the cartoons is I don't understand when they do the cartoons why they don't follow the comics exactly.
Yeah.
Why aren't you following them? Because you said you didn't read the comics.
No.
Well, the movies, while I think are epic and amazing, they steer off the actual storyline very often.
And sometimes, some of that makes sense. You have to go through where you want to appease the new people who don't know what's going on, but still keep enough of it in that the people who love the stories, are still excited and still like it. But like I said, with something with a cartoon, you could literally go like issue to issue. You don't have to worry about actors aging out and not being able to play the character anymore.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, time constraints of filming this big huge action movie. Like, you can literally, with cartoons, your budget is so much different. You don't need all this extra money for big, huge, crazy fight scenes and actors and things like that.
But I think animation costs a decent bit of money too.
It
But
does.
you got to be saving money in actors and other things.
But still,
Because me and you, we'll voice anything they want for minimal amount of money.
a huge star fight in a movie, though, is going to be way more expensive than an animated huge star fight. You know what I mean?
Actually, you want to know what's crazy? Is I was listening to the Two Bears, One Cave. So it's a podcast that you should definitely start watching. And I mean watch it. Don't listen to it. Watch it. It's with Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer.
I don't know who Bert Kreischer is. I know who Tom Segura is.
Well, you know the Russian mafia comedian?
Oh, yeah, the dude always takes his shirt off.
That's Bert Kreischer.
Okay.
So they're best friends in real life.
Oh, okay.
So they have a podcast together called Two Bears, One Cave. And I'm not going to call it a podcast. It's maybe the funniest show on any platform.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Because Bert Kreischer is such a maniac, and Tom Segura has that dry, smart-ass sense of humor.
Right.
So he acts like a maniac, and you get Tom Segura looking at him or looking right at the camera like, did you hear what he just said? It's the most amazing thing. So remind me after this, I want to show you the Jennifer Aniston conversation they had.
Oh, okay.
But so they were talking, and they wanted to do a movie called like Fat Boys in Space or something like that. And Tom thought it would cost a whole bunch of money. And so they did the research. Actually, Bert was one of the few things Bert was right about. Bert was right. Bert said, I actually think that is going to be cheaper than actually if we were like Us in the Jungle. And they were like, yeah, it's cheaper because you don't change locations. You're all in one location. And we just make the surroundings do whatever they have to do. So since you're not changing locations, it's actually a lot cheaper.
Weird.
I may not be verbalizing that correctly,
Right.
but
I mean, I get what you're saying.
But they're like, yeah, so you guys are in a space shuttle? Yeah, well, the space shuttle is in your house, and we just make it look like a fucking space shuttle. You're doing this. Now, with Marvel, it's a little bit different.
Right.
But I just thought...
Because they're not always in space, too. There are all the other
Well, and if they're
aspects.
and they're actually really, truly showing space in those movies. You know what I mean?
So, random aside here, not, adjacent more. So I randomly stumbled upon this podcast today. A little bit of background to how I stumbled across it. So you remember how I was telling you about the Marvel? At one point I was searching for Marvel related podcasts over the summer.
I never listened to the one you told me about either.
And so I found this one that was I can't remember what the hell it was called, but it was Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, and they start from
right.
They do like 2 episodes talking about the Silver Age of X-Men, which is when it's like the original 5, and then they go after that, and they basically go issue by issue. They'll do like 5 or 6 issues usually in each episode, and literally like talk about the plot lines, the storylines, critiquing, and they pretty much keep it strictly X-Men, so they go up to the point where they bring in New Mutants, X-Factor, but they don't really go outside of that, and they explain things. And so I found that, and then I also found this other one where it was not really a podcast, more of like an audiobook, where it was a storyline about Fantastic Four and one of the instances when Galactus came.
Okay.
And Fantastic Four battling Galactus, but it was told through the point of view of some of the famous news reporters in the Marvel Universe. So you know how in the Marvel Universe there's news reporters that are, like well-known, like Jonah Jameson, other people like that. Or the guy in Daredevil that's one of the main... Like even in the Daredevil movie, you remember how that dude from the Matrix, he was the bald guy that was in the Matrix. He ended up being one of the. Neither here nor there.
Okay. Because I don't.
It's told through the point of view of the news reporters.
Oh, okay.
Unfolding what's going on.
They have that in the comics.
Method Man does the voice
oh shit.
of one of the main reporter.
No shit.
showing what's unfolding and what's going on in his life during Galactus coming and things like that. And so I randomly was listening to Pandora earlier, and this commercial came on, and it was Method Man saying, I got this new podcast called The Marvel Method, and it's all about me talking about Marvel Comics with other people. So Method Man has his own podcast where he talks about Marvel Comics with other people.
What is it called?
Marvel Method.
I'm definitely tuning into that.
So like I said, I just started the first one. His first episode is with DMC from Run DMC.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, how each other got into comics and how they influenced each other and things like that, and then who who their favorites are and stuff. And so he brings on guests each week. I think there's only like 4 or 5 episodes out so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, and who the hell would have thought?
That Method Man was a comic
Well,
fan?
not that he was a comic fan, but just like a really weird random thing that he has this random podcast about Marvel Comics. It's just it was wild to me.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Which brings me, I'm just gonna go where my brain takes me. Did you watch at all on Hulu that Wu-Tang series?
No, I have heard it was really good though.
It's really good, and Soomville has shouted out plenty.
Really, I want to say somebody told me that.
And if they bring it back, it's gonna be young RZA in Soomville for a little while.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
Now, did they do that? Oh no, that wasn't the one I was thinking of.
You're thinking of Mikes and Men?
No, I was thinking of so like in the NWA movie, how Ice Cube's son played him.
Yeah.
I was thinking something like that, but I don't think that was how it was. I don't think they had any of like their actual family members playing them.
A rapper does play Method Man though.
Oh really?
David East.
Oh yeah.
You know him?
Yeah.
His stuff is sick.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I actually randomly saw. Did you see that?
Jacob, you mind handing me another beer, brother?
Did you see that movie with Michael B. Jordan about him being what the hell is his name? Who's the dude who played Ray? Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
I'll take my other tall can in the door as well.
I definitely have to taste that.
Yeah.
Just grab me one.
The movie with Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx about he's the death row lawyer. Thanks, man. He's the death row lawyer in
I did not.
the South.
See if you can find it what that is, Jacob.
I cannot think of what the hell it's called, but me and Lacey just watched it
Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx.
like 2 weeks ago, and it was damn good. But what's his name's Ice Cube's son is in it, and he was real good too. But it was based on a true story about an actual lawyer who came down and was like overturning Just Mercy. Yep. He was overturning all these wrongful convictions of mostly people of color that were on death row for like murders and stuff that they didn't commit, or just because there was zero evidence or faulty evidence and things like that. It was really good though.
I'm gonna have to watch that. Did you see? First of all, Denzel Washington's son started a movie recently.
I didn't even know that he had a son, but
yeah, he's actually, because of the movie, fairly big. He was also in Ballers, The Rock show, but Tenet.
Okay, I saw a bunch of previews for that, but I have not actually watched it.
It's terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, they were talking it up like it was going to be like the biggest thing ever, too.
Well, because it's the guy that did Inception. I forget his name.
Yeah,
he did all that, and it's weird.
Is that
like
Christopher Nolan?
Christopher Nolan.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And it's weird like that. Jacob, did you see it?
Yeah.
Pull your microphone up. Did you understand what the fuck was going on?
For a while, no.
What do you mean for a while? I didn't understand it at all. I was fucking lost.
What even was it actually about? Like, I feel like
Time
even the previews like were real,
But not time travel.
Time travel and rewind or something like that. It's the most. So, Dad always liked movies that you really had to pay attention to.
Right.
So I went to show him Inception, which I loved. Did you like Inception?
Yeah,
loved it. And Dad, I felt like I'm I'm getting old, because when I showed it to Dad he looked at me at one point and said, and he wasn't big on cussing, but he would cuss. And he looked at me at one point and he said, "I don't understand what the fuck is going on." And I was sitting here watching that movie by myself, and out loud I went, "I don't understand what the fuck is going on." And that's how I felt. Can you explain it to me, Jacob?
From what I understood is that it was like forward and reverse worlds happening at the same time. So how I really...
So it was like two timelines running simultaneously?
But one was running backwards and the other was going forwards.
So it was like a Quentin Tarantino movie, but two separate timelines.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And it all came together kind of at the end where they have that big war.
Well, I'm not going to lie.
That's where it made sense to me.
I fell asleep towards the end. And when I woke
yet
up...
another subject you have no bearing on because you didn't fucking watch it.
Listen, I mean, I could not have missed much. I watched most of that movie.
So where did you wake up?
Oh, no. When I woke up, it was over.
So yeah.
So I
If you would've
fell
watched it,
asleep.
you would've
So I
understood.
missed the whole end.
I fell
AKA,
asleep
I don't
before the
understand
end. Well,
it.
I saw where he realized the guy he was battling earlier was himself in Rewind.
Yeah.
I saw that part. So that's right towards the end, right?
No.
What do you mean? I was like fucking an hour and a half in.
Yeah, it goes longer.
Yeah. Well, the
there's-
movie's longer than that.
There's more of the movie. What don't you understand about this?
Yeah, well, the movie's longer than what you watched.
Just because you fell asleep doesn't mean that was the end.
All right, well, maybe I do need to watch it because somebody said, well, maybe you should watch it again. I was like, I'm not doing that. I think I gave the movie away.
Yeah, that was like when you find out that he's battling himself, there's probably 45 minutes more.
And
So
and
I
that's
can't-
when they start to explain it.
Is that before? No, there's no way there's 45 minutes. I'd say tops a half hour.
So you
I've
missed the
broken
whole war
something.
in the desert, right?
Yeah,
You don't
oh,
even
yeah.
know, you don't even know what I'm talking about?
I didn't know there was a desert.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought I broke something for a second, but I fixed it.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a desert. So, okay, so I do need to at least watch the end. I don't know if I can watch the rest of it again, but I'll watch the end.
And like
Appalled by you
so
at this point.
It's so, but
And
dude,
like-
it's so hard to watch. Even the conversations they're having during the movie, I don't understand.
and like the guy on the boat with the girl,
Yes.
you see her jumping off,
Yeah.
and then did you see, so you know that part, but then did you actually see when they're on the boat and all that happening?
No.
Okay.
Maybe not.
Is it like futuristic at all, or is it like modern times?
It's like today.
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like today and they just found this new technology. It's like if tomorrow they found out there's a whole reverse world.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if you go into that reverse world, you have to wear an oxygen mask.
Yeah, because the oxygen, instead of it going in, it would be going out of you because you're going reverse.
That's dumb. That's real dumb. Because
Wait.
oxygen goes. We
it-
breathe in and out all the time.
Yeah, but it'd be going reverse, so it would just.
So we're
kinda-
taking in CO2. That doesn't make
yeah,
any sense. Alright.
because it's going reverse.
All right. I
You're
do
in a
have to
reverse
piss
world.
real quick, but I'm gonna let you guys talk.
Okay, now I'm losing the movie. Like,
Yeah, it's
now
very
I'm
hard.
Getting, now I'm getting more confused. Like, if they're breathing in reverse, are they also speaking in reverse? Like, how do I watch this
Yes.
movie? Like,
Yeah. Well, I guess when you're watching, and from that point of view, they're speaking normally.
Regularly.
Yeah, but in the movie, when they're seeing stuff, when they're hearing things from the reverse world, it's all in reverse.
Really?
It's
That's so weird.
very crazy, but it all comes together at the end, and
Yeah.
you fully understand like how it kind of works towards the end.
Yeah,
Which you
very
didn't
strange.
watch.
Yeah, like I said, I had seen the previews and I saw like all the talk about it, how it was supposed to be something like really crazy and like the next big thing, but
Yeah, it's a
I never got around to watching it.
It's a great idea because it's like the future has already happened and that's just going in reverse. So this guy, he's following this guy who's finding himself, but then he's also finding out that in this reverse world, he was like this top guy, leader of the opposition or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the reverse world is going backwards. Yeah.
So is the guy that's going forward, is he like trying to prevent what happened in the reverse world basically then?
No, I think he's trying to. He goes in the reverse world to fix stuff that's happening in the forward world.
Okay. But he doesn't know.
So he doesn't know yet. Then he figures it out, goes in the reverse world, tries to fix. And then like his forward world, his forward self and his reverse self kind of
And then
meet
at some point they
times.
like can kind of converge.
Yeah.
Huh. Weird.
It's a good I thought it's a good movie. Not great, not bad.
Not what
I
it was
think
hyped to be, regardless, right?
It's nothing on the Inception level. No.
Yeah.
Like in a couple years when you're talking about great top 5 mind-bending movies, I probably wouldn't
Put it up there.
put Tenet in there, maybe top 15, top 10, but just because there's not many like that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another movie I wanted to tell you
Gotta
about.
try
This one
that.
kind of hits home for us, and I'm gonna need your help with the name here, Jacob. It's Jason Segel Friend movie. I might just be called Friend. It might be called Our Friend. So Our Friend. So you know who Jason Segel is? Oh God, that's fucking
good, right?
Yeah. Holy shit.
And it's like 11,
What's that? What's that actually?
12%.
What's the
and it
name of
does
the
not-
beer and what's the description?
So it's Arche Brewing, Emperor of the Unknown Universe, or Emperor of the Known Universe, and it's a peanut butter Oreo double imperial oatmeal pastry stout.
I wanted to make sure the peanut butter was in there because I taste the Oreo and the peanut butter.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
It's good.
Yeah.
And like for it being 12%, like there is
Doesn't taste
not
like
a
it at
bite.
all. No. So this movie has Casey Affleck, Jason Segel, and I think her name's Dakota Johnson.
Oh yeah, I saw a preview for this.
Dude, one true story.
Really? I don't remember what it was about, but I remember I saw a
Fucking
preview for
epic.
it.
So at the beginning of the movie, Dakota Johnson and Casey Affleck are married. And at the beginning of the movie, Jason Segel, so Dakota Johnson does like plays, and Jason Segel works on those plays, and he doesn't realize she's married, so he like hits on her. And so she considers him a good friend, but Casey Affleck doesn't really like him. But then he ends up becoming like really good friends with him too. So like the three of them are like best friends. She gets cancer, and eventually it becomes to the point like, we know you're gonna die. And Jason Segel at this point still talks to them all the time, but they don't live in the same vicinity. So when she gets really sick, Casey Affleck is stressed out, doesn't know what he's going to do because they have kids. And he literally, at one point, he's going through some really rough times, depression-wise. But then he literally stops his whole life and just goes and lives with them to help them.
Right, yeah. Doesn't he like he almost ends up becoming like dad number 2 at that point, doesn't he?
He just becomes like the other parent because
Right.
she can't.
Right.
And she goes through. Now, I don't know. I can't remember if you were in the room or not, but you probably saw some of it regardless. But like one of the memories I have from when Dad passed away in the hospital. Sorry to get that, but I just think this movie portrayed it so well. Was you could see his mind starting to go.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he would be like, what's that on the floor? And you're like, there's nothing on the floor.
Yeah.
Like they showed that aspect so well.
Right.
And they did so many things so well in the movie. Like I lost my shit obviously during this movie. Like if you watch this, I don't know if you ever cry during movies. I do from time to time. This one I lost it. It's not like I cry in every I cry more than I should.
What's a weird movie you've cried
But
to?
before he falls asleep, he cries usually.
Yeah, that's what happens is I cry and then I go to bed. I'm like, oh, this Tenet movie is so terrible, and I'm going to sleep. But this one is, they portray that so well, and it was so relatable at some points to our situation
Right.
that it hit me hard. And then to realize that it's a true story.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
okay.
Like this guy really did that, and then he went through, because that was one of his. It was his best friend as well. Like he was almost as close with her as the husband.
Right.
For a little while, he actually like locks himself in the room he was staying in and doesn't come out. And like the husband now is, because he's kind of dealt with it better, he's like taking care of him a little bit. And that part's real quick, but
Yeah.
just the whole process they go through and how it was crazy, man.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, in some ways, this might sound terrible to say, in some ways we were lucky with how strong our dad was, and then how quick.
That's what I was gonna say, with how quick things happened, for sure.
Because in this, they show you like the drawn out version of that, and that drawn out version is epically awful.
Oh yeah, even like, so being a nurse in the ER, like, you know, like I said, with us being a small community hospital, like, you know, we see, you know, if you have a chronic issue in the area, like chances are we're gonna see you a lot.
Yeah.
And we do. You see how drawn out even just the little interaction that we have with people being in the ER. It's wild how I've always thought that it was so much better for our dad for how quickly it happened. I mean, hell, when his cancer came back, they told him that he could have anywhere from like 3 to 5 years with treatment the second round.
Yeah.
And within, 3 weeks, he was dead?
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is he gave us that timeline. Do you remember when he sat us down and he was like, they told me this long, and I think it's actually going to be more like this long.
Well, and when Mom brought him in to the ER that time when he got hospitalized and died.
So real quick, what we should say is he still was going to work every day.
Oh yeah,
and doing everything till the day he couldn't get out of bed, and then she called you.
Yeah, he literally he could barely even move, so she more or less carried him to the car and got him in, and he like couldn't even move. And like I said, the doctors had told us, you know, anywhere from 3 to 5 years with treatment. And we get him in the bed, and you know, they're running their little tests and stuff like that. And I was a nurse's aide at that point, but I was still fairly close with some of the doctors, and the doctor that was on at that point, I talked to him and, you know, just asked him, you know, like, what do you think is going on? And he was like, you know, have you guys talked about hospice yet? And it was just like a mind-blowing thing for me. Like, what do you mean hospice? Like, it's like the doctor said 3 to 5 years. Like, it's only been like 2 weeks. Like, what do you mean? And literally he got admitted, and within 4 or 5 days he was gone.
That was something that really sucked for me, because I felt like I was very happy for this, but also at the same time felt like I needed to do something. He got to see Hannah get married and have a kid. He got to see you get married.
It was wild. He literally, so me and Lacey got married October 23rd, and he died December 14th.
Yeah.
So it was like one of the last things.
So where I fucked up massively is I was like, I got to figure out something to do to let him know I'm okay. And I tried to, at one point I don't even know how I was going to do it, but I was in negotiations and talks to buy Tucker's Tavern in Toronto. And I was trying to do all these things to show him, like, I've done something, I'm going to be okay.
Right.
And what I should have been doing was spending time. Like, you went and saw a movie with him. I should have done things like that.
Right.
And it's a big regret of mine, because when I should have been spending time, I was trying to show him something.
Right.
And really what he probably wanted as well was just time.
Yeah. It was wild. We actually, that last movie that we went and saw together was what the hell's that called? The Arrival.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
which I
'cause
finally just watched not that long ago.
We were always real big into sci-fi and anything science and space,
he loved
especially
the space movies.
But yeah, so that was like that's actually when I did the sleeve on my right arm, I got in the Arrival. You know how they do that. Their language is that like circular ink blot kind of thing.
Smoke
I have
ink block type thing.
I have one of the ink blots right here
Oh, that's
that
awesome.
they have from there
Yeah,
from the movie.
But I'll tell you another thing that was comforting to me with him passing was because we lost Grandma Jerry just right before.
Yeah.
I can't remember if you were standing there or not, but we were all talking at her showing, and he said he was excited to see what was next. Were you
Well, yeah,
standing
because that
there
was always a
with
big thing with him because he was never a religious person.
right at all?
But he was always fascinated with he would watch all those those weird deciphering the Bible and explaining the Bible and even anything space really or
Well,
but
not
he,
even not even space or Bible, but he loved the one. I remember one of the last ones I remember really talking to him about was he was watching this one where little kids were having memories of people that were in World War whatever or
right
and they were giving specific memories that were documented, and it was holy shit, were they
that was the best thing about him. He always had questions about everything. He was a very inquisitive person. If he found something interesting, he had questions about it and he wanted answers to those questions. Like when me and him when I growing up, I would go on all these business trips with him. We would go every summer, would travel to different states and set up as vendors at baseball tournaments. And so we were in the car for, anywhere from 8 to 12 hours at a time, to and from these places. And if we weren't, a lot of the times we listened to books on tape, which was either sci-fi or murder
Jason
mystery.
Bourne.
Murder mystery, kind of things like that. Secret agent, kind of things like that. Or like I said, a lot of times it was sci-fi, or honestly, we would just have nothing on the radio and we would just talk about
liked
random
silence.
crazy
Ooh.
stuff.
he liked silence a lot.
Yeah, if he was driving by himself, most of the time he wouldn't even have a book on or the radio. It would just be silence and he would be thinking about
And he would
things.
have you if you were with him and it was silent time, he might tell you pull out a piece of paper and a pen.
Yeah, we would just literally just talk about if we didn't understand something or we were fascinated about something, it wasn't get on the internet and look it up. It was let's talk about what we think might be going on kind of thing. That's a great thing to have in somebody, just an inquisitive mind.
Yeah, I'll tell you. First of all, I don't know which one I want to say first. First of all, one place where I fucked up again is those last business trips I took with Dad. Before he got sick, so I had no idea. But it was at the point where we had these fancy cell phones, and I was like, "Oh man, I can watch Netflix on my phone." So I would do that, and I should have just been sitting there, but I didn't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Me and Dad were gonna have lots of time to talk. Besides the car, we were on a whole business trip together, so I didn't think anything of it. But now looking back, I'm like, fuck this phone. Throw it out the goddamn window. But one thing I take to heart when he said, I'm just very curious to see what's next, was this man was so comfortable with his life and how he lived it that he wasn't actually scared of death.
Oh yeah.
He had no fear of it whatsoever.
No.
He wasn't. He not at one point was he ever terrified. He knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
And he was not scared of it because, and I think the only way you can not be scared of it is to be comfortable with the life that you lived. And that's something that very recently, since I have made some changes to my life, that I'm like, that's what I need to start doing. I need to be, no matter what anybody thinks of anything, whether I'm drinking, not drinking, or anything, I need to be comfortable with the way I'm living my life.
Right. Yeah. As terrible as it to say, I mean, as comfortable as he is, because I have no doubts that he was. I mean, the dude worked hard and whatever he wanted, he worked for and got. I wish I had fucking a quarter of the work ethic that he did. Hell, but he. So not only do I think that he lived and did a bunch of amazing things, but honestly though too, the darker side of it, he lived in a lot of pain for those last months to year or 2 years. I mean, he had immense amounts of pain. So I mean, he knew that he had done a bunch of amazing things, had this big amazing family. He was ready to. He was like, I don't want to. Yeah. At that point, there comes to a point where it's a quality of life. At that point, too.
Yeah. He couldn't take care of himself. He'd always said in the past, like, if he needed somebody to take care of him, he didn't want to go.
Hell,
on.
and I'm not the same way. Like, if I can't wipe my own ass,
that's pretty much the way he said it. If I can't wipe my own ass, I don't want to be around.
Yeah, you pushed me right up to the cliff. I'll wheel my ass off.
Yeah, and I actually agree with that too. And it's one of the reasons why I've started to try to get healthier and start exercising, because this meat wagon can only take so much. Like that's what we're in here.
Right.
And if you want to be able to live to 90 or 100 and take care of yourself, you got to take care of yourself.
I'll tell you what, going back to some of the how we, like I said, we always used to listen to the books on tape and stuff. I've actually been recently, instead of doing podcasts and music and stuff in the car, I've been doing a lot more books on tape in the car. And so me and him always did a lot. Like I said, a lot of times he was real into like the sci-fi and stuff like that. And Arthur C. Clarke was one of the authors that he really liked. He did Childhood's End, which I had read a long time ago, and then Rendezvous with Rama. He had actually bought me a copy of it years ago, and I had started it and just couldn't bring myself to really get into it. And that was actually the last book that I just finished on Book on Tape, was Rendezvous with Rama. It was really good. It was Have you ever read that one?
No, and I'm not good with books on tape either.
Really?
Yeah, like when we would do the business trips and stuff like that, no problem. But if I try to book on tape or whatever you want to call it, like, because now you do it on like Amazon or whatever, I get too sidetracked.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, what just happened?
Half the time I fucking find myself...
It's weird because I do podcasts.
Right. Half the time I find myself leaving early for things so that I can sit in the car for an extra 10 minutes when I get there so that I can keep listening. Or like I'll pull into the house and I'll pause it, and then as I'm walking inside, I'll press play again and like be listening on my phone, like as I'm walking inside still. Like, so like I said, Rendezvous with the Rama was the last one I just finished. It's like I said, it's an Arthur C. Clarke book, so it's like super old, probably the 50s, I think it was written.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's far into the future. Earth is colonized, a couple different planets, including and then also the moon, and so their biggest concern at that point is asteroids hitting the planet. Like that's their
should be a big concern now.
Right. So they have these long range systems to detect all these things, and all of a sudden they detect this massive object coming in super fast. And at first, they're like, oh, it's just this another asteroid, but it's actually going to come close. We need to check it out. And then the closer it gets, they realize that it's a perfect cylinder. And they're like, well, if it's, it has to be made, it's not a natural forming object. And then they end up having a ship that's going to be close enough to actually get there and do some reconnaissance and stuff. And so it's all about them exploring it, finding out that it is made, and figuring out if it's like a dead world or...
What's it called again?
Rendezvous with Rama.
Okay.
It's really good. It's a pretty short book. I think it's only like 200 to 300 some pages.
Oh fuck! I'll read that.
Yeah, it was really, really short. It's wild. A lot of Arthur C. Clarke stuff is not real character driven.
Yeah.
It's very much about the science, about the.
It's about the overall thing,
right? The big
not
picture of everything. Yeah. It was
what a great way to write, actually.
It was a little anticlimactic, just because you don't really ever get to know exactly what the purpose of everything is.
Yeah.
Which is not, completely against, what everything that we discover in life is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of the probably how it would have actually happened if, this actually happened. But there's a couple sequels. I'm a little apprehensive to try them, though, because they weren't actually written by Arthur C. Clarke. They were written by somebody else, but he, edited
Influenced
them.
it. Oh, edited them.
Yeah, they would send him copies, and he would say, okay, change this, do this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard, the other ones are definitely a lot more character-driven. They're a lot more about the individual people.
So it's like a different
doing.
writing.
Yeah.
But it actually might be cool at the same time.
If nothing else, just to get some more answers as to what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I read that, and then, man, the other one. So if I'm going to read something, sci-fi or fantasy is my other real genre that I'll usually really read. I just reread the 2 books of the Kingkiller Chronicles that are
You
out.
keep telling me about that. I gotta fucking.
Oh my
get on
god!
those.
So Mo was originally the one who turned me on to it.
Yeah. What sucks is I did a podcast with Mo, and we talked about those, and I got drunk beforehand, and got drunk during, and I didn't save it.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, because actually, I want to say that I actually looked for the one that Mo had done, but I when I first looked for it, I just figured that I had looked too
Your
early.
computer die?
What?
Your computer die?
Nope, just timed out.
Okay.
I actually just figured that I had looked too early and you hadn't had it posted yet. But so it's supposed to be a trilogy, the Kingkiller Chronicles.
Real quick, I want to throw this in here before I forget. I can't remember. Oh no, the other part we'll get to. The one part is I should try to listen to books on tape for fiction stories, because most of the books I've been reading lately aren't fiction. So I feel like I get in the storyline. I feel like I would get so caught up in it that I wouldn't get distracted. When I try to do some of the books I have up there, basically the Secret of Life books, I can't do those books on tape. I have to read those.
Right.
But so go ahead now, King Chronicles.
So with the Kingkiller Chronicles, they're this fantasy world. They're about this main character. His name is Quoth. The really cool thing that really gets me with these is they're a fantasy world with this magic of sorts, but they explain it in a really scientific way.
Okay.
So it's really cool. So it's more of like a transfer of energy thing, where they have what they call sympathy, where they kind of go along the same principles as we have, where energy can't be lost; it can only be transferred.
Okay.
So you can make these bindings between things, where they have this thing where they call it your alar, where when he first starts learning about it, if you believe something strongly enough, you can. So say. If you believe in something strong enough. So say, going binding wise. All right, so we'll do this. So these 2 cups.
Okay. So this part you should definitely
I'm
watch the YouTube video.
I'm gonna have to
for.
describe them anyways.
Yeah,
'cause
you're
it's-
gonna
it's-
describe it, but watch the YouTube video.
So we have 2 cups here, and I believe that these 2 cups are the same thing.
but which they're definitely not.
They are not. One is made of wood. One is made of glass.
They're different
One is a lot
sizes.
taller.
Yeah.
One can hold more. Many differences. But I believe that they are the same thing. So you can, with your alar, you can create this binding in your mind to bind them together. So when I move one, I say I move the wooden one, the glass one would move as well. But the way that they scientifically explain it too was because that they are so different, so much energy is going to be lost because it's not a perfect binding. Because they're made out of the different things, they're
there are different shapes, different weights, different things like that. Now, if I would take a little cut a chunk off of this wooden cup and create a binding with it, the binding would be much stronger because they're made out of the same thing.
Because
it's literally a piece of that
it's literally
thing.
a piece of it, yeah.
So the binding would be stronger. So different things like that. But then there's also an even more. So they have like the scientific magic aspect of it, but then there's also like the deeper magic where. So the first book is called The Name of the Wind, and
so mad about this. Every time you talk about this, I get so much more mad about the fact that I lost that fucking Adam Morgan episode.
Oh yeah, that's. Anytime you talk to Adam, you want to save it.
That's
that
what
dude's
I'm
just
saying.
not only is he a knowledgeable dude, but he's done so many fucking things.
He's done so many fucking things. He's genuinely maybe the nicest dude on the planet.
Right. So like I said, the deeper magic part of it too is everything has a name, and not just superficial names like your name is Dave, my name is PJ, but a deeper real name. So like the name of the wind, where if you get open-minded enough, you can sense the actual name of the wind and control the wind and call the wind, but sometimes only like when especially when you're first becoming aware of it, sometimes it can kind of happen on accident. You will forget the name of the wind after you've called it. Sometimes you first call it, usually especially in times of crisis and in heat of the moment kind of things. But it's really, really good. And there's this whole other, not necessarily demon, but crazy aspect of it where he starts out as he's what they call a trooper, where he's a traveling pack of musicians. That's his family's lifeblood, and they're murdered in front of him by these crazy, not necessarily demon, but in their realm, creatures that you wouldn't.
Right.
They're stories that you tell at night, like the boogeyman.
Okay.
And then he starts learning about sympathy and the real scientific magic, and he goes to this main world's university to learn more, not only about the magic, but he wants to learn more about they're called the Chandrian, or the ones who murdered his family, about them, because he wants revenge, more or less.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. So, and it's told in the point of view where he's older and he owns this inn and is going by this fake name Coat, and he's basically in hiding after some terrible thing has happened, and this chronicler has come to town and recognizes him and is like, listen, me and my buddy have been searching for you. We want to tell your story.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I'll give you 3 days and I'll tell you my whole story. And then obviously I'm going to disappear because you finally figured out where I am, and I'm in hiding.
Yeah.
But what's terrible is, Patrick Rothfuss is the writer of the books, and it's the same scenario as George R.R. Martin. There was 2 books, and it's supposed to be 3 total, and it's been, I think, just over 10 years. I think the 3rd book, and it still has not come out.
I think this is exactly how it came up with me and Mo.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Literally, like every couple months, I search on the internet again to see if there has been any update.
So can you do me a favor, because I will forget? Do you have any of these books?
So Blanton has The Name of the Wind, and actually I think it was the copy that Mo gave me.
Well, I was gonna say,
and I gave it to Blanton to read.
I was gonna ask.
So the first one.
I was gonna ask you because I'll forget.
But on YouTube, Name of the Wind and the second one. Oh shit! What the hell is it called? Either way, the first and second book are on YouTube for free as audiobooks. That's how I just reread them.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask you if you could order them for me on Amazon, and then I'll give you the money.
Oh yeah.
Because I want to read them.
Yeah,
I think I want to read them. I don't want to.
They're phenomenal.
Yeah. I'll forget. So if you could order them for me
Yeah.
on Amazon, that would be dope.
And so the second one is definitely long. I think it's close to 1,000 pages. The second one.
That's fine. If
The
it's
first
good.
one is definitely shorter, but it's just
It's the perfect way to do it. First one, short but great. Get you to read the long
it's
one.
it's this perfect blend between magic and fighting and learning, and I love it. It's amazing. There's actually been 2 novellas that he's written that I have been looking for the free audiobooks of those. I'm probably gonna have to just break down and buy them. He wrote one. One is about Bast. It's a side character. So there's fae creatures in his realm as well. So like
Fae
fairy,
being fairy, yeah.
So there's a fae realm. So when he is in his later years, and the chronicler is having him tell his story, Bast is incognito is just his assistant at the end, but really he's a fae creature that Kvothe is teaching. So there's one about him, and there's another one about this girl that he meets while he's at the university called Ari. And so when you're doing all this magic, they say in the books there's so many people each term that just kind of lose their minds. They have an actual mental institution on the university campus for these people that just because you're pushing your mind to such limits that there's just a high probability that some people are just going to break.
Yeah.
So there's this girl that he just finds is just living in these, she calls it the under thing, but these underground tunnels throughout the university, and he like befriends her. And so there's another small novella about her. I think that one's the slow regard of silent things. But yeah, so I'd like to read that one as well.
The names are always epic too,
dude. Like I said, and just the way that he writes it is very lyrical.
Okay.
There's a great cadence to how he tells things, because the main character in himself, like I said, he is a trooper to his bones. He is a performer from birth.
Yeah.
So, and it's him telling his story.
Yeah.
So he is a great storyteller.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he writes it like that. It's amazing.
I really want to check those out. Something I want to touch on for just a second before we wrap this up is the first books you were talking about, the scientific with the cylinder.
Rendezvous with Rama, yeah.
So, did you know, I don't know how much you've paid attention to the alien stuff, but there is a lot of evidence towards alien spacecraft. It could be alien, it could be technology that we just don't know about, but with Tic Tac, so cylindrical, but with rounded ends, being... so there's a guy named Bob Lazar who says he worked at the real Area 51, which is like S something.
I've heard of that dude. Yeah.
It's like S something or something like that. And then there's a Air Force or Navy officer who came out and talked about it as well. He's like, there are these Tic Tac shaped aircrafts, there's no other way to describe them, that move unlike anything we've ever seen, and like they can literally be here and then be here in like a second, and they can't explain it. And now people are starting to come out with more and more of this, and there's I wish I wasn't as buzzed up as I am, but they're now, because of this Air Force or Navy captain, I can't remember what he is. I think he was a captain. Either way, he's an officer in the Air Force or the Navy. Because of him and because of Bob Lazar, now like politicians are like, hey, we need to really know this. So even in this last stimulus package, part of it, the stimulus package was, hey, you got to give us all the information on the alien spaceship nonsense that you know.
So what's funny? So the rendezvous with Rama, how I said it was like a cylinder. It's actually more like the exact shape of a Tic Tac. So, but on a very large scale, and so one of the reasons that it is like that is continuously spinning on that axis, and so the inside of a cylinder creates an artificial gravity.
Yeah.
So the inside of the cylinder, so how they say it, there's the North Pole and the South Pole are the ends of the Tic Tac. And then the inside of the cylinder from the North Pole to the South Pole, they call the central plane. And then cutting that in half, they call the cylindrical sea. So there's an ocean or a river or whatever that goes around the inside. So say you're standing in the middle of the central plane, staring at the cylindrical sea, there will literally be a river that goes like this outward. It's kilometers wide. They go by kilometers and everything. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you will see a river or an ocean or whatever you say it is go up the walls and connect around the top because of the artificial gravity because it's rotating on its axis.
Yeah.
And so
this is crazy.
And so that makes complete sense, and with what you're describing. And then on either end there's little cities populated throughout it. And what's crazy
so that's
is
massive in this.
Massive. Like, so I think they said it's like 50 to 70 kilometers long.
Okay.
And then 10 kilometers wide, I think, maybe a little bit more.
So in this book, they have no actual propulsion system. It all has to do with gravity and magnetics.
So what they talk about is they are wondering how, that's part of the mystery in it, is how they're wondering how it's propelling through the air. And what they say is it has to be some sort of space drive, which is something that there has always been talks about, but they can never prove how to actually make it work. But what's crazy...
This is so crazy. This has so much to do with the real life aspect of
What's
this.
crazy, connecting it even more to real life, is Arthur C. Clarke has been one of the main authors throughout time that has literally been a precursor coming from science to fact. He was such a visionary when it came to the actual science of writing science fiction.
Yeah.
That he often predicted things that were actually possible. Like the space elevator, that was him. So the space elevator, what they talk about is having a literal elevator from Earth all the way up until orbit.
Yeah.
So instead of having to propel an object, all that force and fuel and everything it takes to get an object out of our gravitational field up into orbit, where it takes minimal propulsion to move something, you could literally just use an elevator to elevate it up there. They use that in Childhood's End was the first book I ever read from Arthur C. Clarke. They talked about that space elevator, and that's been something that they've actually worked on for a long time, and thought that was actually the best way to go about things from space travel, is to have something where you can just physically move something up to space.
Well, so what's crazy about you saying that is it relates so much to what's actually happening right now. Is they can't figure out how this Tic Tac that Bob Lazar or this officer in whatever military has seen, is they can't sense any propulsion system. It doesn't get picked up on heat sensors. So they're like, is it a magnetic field? Are they bending space and time? What are they doing that makes it be able to move at all, let alone as fast as it's moving? Because it's also moving faster than anything we know of. So what this officer has seen is moving in a way that for sure we, as far as we know, without the deep dark secrets of whatever, as far as we know, nothing can move like this. And it's also has no heat sensor, so there's no jet propulsion or whatever you want to say.
Right.
So exact same. Man, it's crazy. That is so.
Like I said,
relatable.
dude, he was one of the main people that was always writing about. He was like a precursor from science fiction to science fact.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was constantly bridging the gap.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to close with that one because I'm a little buzzed up, and in order for us to continue along these lines, I would have to be a little sober. So we're going to close up with that. I think this was an awesome podcast. I think this is actually fucking way better than I even expected it to be.
Yeah, we came in here with nothing.
We came in here with...
and I'm always happy to talk about comics and space. So that's
Well, man, we hit so many things.
Right.
We hit COVID pretty hard, which I'm glad we did.
right. It's always nice to get some realness and talk about what's actually happening. 'Cause, I mean, within our age, it's terrible. But there's misinformation everywhere, and even just even if there wasn't internet, word of mouth is terrible. I mean,
it's awful.
So it's always nice to get some information out there. And obviously, I'm no complete expert, but I was there. I saw a lot of things. But.
Yeah, and one thing we should say is, even though you were there for a lot of things, you're not an expert.
Right? No, definitely not. I mean, I'm not a doctor, not anything. I'm a nurse. I just
but we
help and take care of people.
But we spoke to what you saw.
Right.
And I think that is going to be really good for people to hear. Then we touched on everything. Then we went to comics, we went to movies, we talked about our dad. To me, this was kind of an epic episode.
Yeah, like I said, I was when I always message you before we do anything like this on the couple occasions that I have, like what are we going to talk about? And usually we have some sort of an outline, but today we came, I was like, I don't know what the fuck we're gonna say.
Yeah,
I guess we'll just talk.
You messaged me and you said you have any ideas of subjects you want to talk about, and I said no.
Figured we just hang out and have a drink. Okay then.
Yeah, and I think it worked out better than our previous episodes, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think we literally just got to hang out with each other.
Right.
And it was awesome.
Which, hell, like I said, I've been working so much and everything else. It's been few and far between anyways.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not always the best at that, and you guys have families now, so it makes it tough.
I don't even answer most people when they text me.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll text you, and it'll be like 2 days later I get a response.
You'd be lucky if you get 2 days. 2 days is good, my man. We get to a week, and you're like, all right, I guess I should text this person back, probably.
Yeah. But no, it's tough sometimes, and I would say that I hate that we get to reconnect on a podcast, but honestly, it's fucking fun.
Right.
And honestly, it adds an extra element.
Right. Would we have really done anything differently?
Probably not.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe one thing.
There's maybe one smidgen of a small. Other than that, I can't really think of anything.
Yeah. But
probably would have been less interesting to listen to. But
yeah, we might have just laid here. Oh man, but hey, thanks for doing it. Honestly, I want to have you on more often. So I want to figure that out, because honestly, when I first thought of this podcast thing, my first thoughts were of doing it me, you, and Hannah, which, by the way, we also have to do.
Right,
an episode with me, you, and Hannah.
There's just so many stories that we can't tell.
Right, because of certain situations. But I think with how we are together, we don't even need stories.
I do. I still like the dynamic between the three of us too, and even the stories that we can tell are still good. I mean, even just the dynamic of us. I mean,
we could talk about anything.
And if nothing else, how often have you met three siblings that have got along so well for so long? You know what I mean?
Like, literally,
that's just an oddity in itself. Like, I don't know about you. Like, whenever I grew up, any siblings that I knew, they hated each other.
Well, and literally, we've had friends that, like, Josh. Do you remember his last name?
Black Josh.
Yeah.
He wasn't black. But
he wasn't black, but for some reason we called him Black Josh.
Well,
yeah, he might have been. But so but he even introduced us one time when he was like introducing us to one of his friends, because he was from Libsyn, so it was a little bit far away. And he was like, you know the craziest thing about these three? They're brothers and sisters, and they love each other.
Right. Yeah. Like I
Because-
said, like it wasn't something that like I said, even when I was growing up, like all my friends that I had, they hated their siblings. Like, I was like, I can't relate, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We've always been tighter than tight, and even now that you have your family, Hannah has her family, we may not
Right.
talk as often, but it's still just
Right.
the
It doesn't
same.
change anything. Like once we get together, it's like, oh, here we are.
Here we
Like,
are doing what we love.
Right. Like
Yeah. But so I really want to get that happening. But my original vision for the podcast was just us three doing fucking tangents. So I want to do that more. Like I'd like to try to make it, even if I would like to make once a month, either it be me and you or me and Hannah or the three of us.
Yeah.
Like whoever can make it. So
if there was any three better fools to be gathered, I can't think of them.
I can't think of them either. And once a lot more stuff gets legal, it'll even be more interesting. But hey, PJ, thank you for doing it. We're gonna watch this Two Bears, One Cave Jennifer Aniston thing real quick, actually.
Yeah.
But thank you for doing it. Excited to hear what this actually sounds like. You're the man.
Yeah. Always appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. All right. Peace.